Now we need to make a spout for the teapot. You don't need much clay for this. I have a piece here that's probably like, I don't know, 1/3 of a pound. It's not much. I'm going to splat this down and go ahead and center it. Centering small clay can be a little awkward. I like to cone it up with my fingers and push it down a couple times just to help get it all there. That looks good. And now I'm going to pre-drill and then drill. So this spout is just going to be a little tube. Because of that, I am drilling all the way through to the very base of my bat. So if I were to pick this up, the camera up and show you this from above, it's just like a donut of clay. There's nothing in the center, I'm just seeing the brown bat. And I went ahead and I opened the walls, but not much. I drilled all the way down. I just pulled my fingers back the tiniest bit, so the opening from above is maybe 1 inch wide. So it's not a wide opening at all. Now I'm going to pull the walls. And I'm starting my pressure all the way at the bottom, since I don't have an interior floor to my pot. And when I pull this, I can't get my whole left hand inside. I can just get a finger or two. So I'm doing my best to just stay stable, and you notice my thumbs are still touching. I'm also making sure that my direction goes straight up, because what would be bad is if my spout started to lean out. I know it might look cool, but one of the least functional shapes of a spout is one that attaches to the teapot and then flares out towards the tip, because that will make the liquid glug, glug, glug as it's coming out. Spouts function a lot better if they get more narrow towards the pouring side. So if needed, you could collar this in a couple times if it starts to get wide, but my favorite thing to do is just make sure as I'm pulling, I'm kind of leaning in and keeping that top a little bit more narrow. So now that all the thickness is pulled out of this, I need to start making this into more of a spout shape. So while I can still get in there, I'm going to get my sponge down to get all the water out of the inside. And then I'm going to start collaring this. So I might do my first collar just to pull on the top a little bit, the way I normally would with my hands in a letter C. But then when I can't get my hands around this anymore, I'm going to switch to this shape where I'm pushing with the kind of back side of my middle finger, my fingertip of my pointer, and the fingertip of my thumb on both hands. So like this. And as I work my way up the spout, I'm squeezing a little bit more. This is starting to come in a little bit. I always use a little bit more clay than I need. I could keep working like this, but I just know that for the style spout I like, this is going to be a little taller than I need. So I'll go ahead and trim this down a little bit. And then I need to pull this again. Because as I have been collaring it in, the spout's gotten just a little thicker in the areas I collared. So I did one little pull with the finger inside. Now I'm going to collar this even more. I do one more collar. And I need to do another pull. I can just barely get a finger in there still. I only really need to pull the areas that I've collared. And now that I'm about the shape I want. I'm just feeling this. That still feels nice and even. I'm going to throw a rib against the side. I'm being careful. Normally when I use a rib, I try to support the interior wall across from where I'm using that rib. But since I can't do that, since it's hard to get a finger inside this right now, I'm just being real gentle. When I go to attach this to the teapot, I will be trimming the back of this, the bottom part right now. So I'm not as worried about the base of this being perfect. And now that my shape is pretty much finalized, the last thing I have to do is create an edge on this spout that's going to pour well. So right now it would probably pour okay, but the main challenge is actually getting it to stop pouring. So when you tilt the teapot back upright, you want the edge of the spout to be sharp enough to cut off the stream of water. And to do this, I like to just put a needle tool inside my spout and gently slide my left thumb up the side and what this is creating is a sharp edge inside my spout. And I can still come in and collar this just a little bit if I want to. You don't want your tea spout to be too narrow or it will just drizzle out a tiny bit of tea. And make sure this is just a little pointed with my fingertips. Get that slip off. And now I think that's a sharp enough edge to work well. So sometimes if you're making really long spouts and you're using clay that has a lot of porcelain in it, the memory of the clay will remember the direction that the wheel has been spinning, and it will remember the way you've pulled and stretched the clay up, and sometimes it will unwind a little bit. I find my clay doesn't do this too bad, especially if I use a shorter spout like this. But if I were doing a teapot kind of like, if you think about like the Beauty and the Beast teapot or one of those fairy tale princess teapots you see that has the giant long spout, you might have to worry about that just a little. But I think usually with a clay like this, as long as you keep your spout less than 3 inches long, it's usually okay. So I could also, if I wanted, I could bend the spout a little bit so that when I put it on the teapot, it already has a little bit of a curve to it. I'm not going to do that because of the way I trim off the spout, but some people do that if you watch other teapot spout making videos. And now I'm going to very carefully pick this spout up so that you can see the back of it and see it from the front. And then I will put this aside to be drying so we can assemble it once while they're hard.